One of the demos for today, and that's the Windows 8 experience. But now let's talk about what it's like to build those applications. This is the build conference, and so now we're going to build them. What's the Windows 8 platform going to look like? Okay, well, here is the platform that all of you know. This platform is, the best way to say it is, it's extremely rich, and it's extremely riddled with feedback from you over how these different parts don't exactly always work together. We've got the C# and VB world built on top of .NET and Silverlight. We've got the C and the C++ world built in the strong Win32 API. And then we've built the silo of HTML, JavaScript on top of Internet Explorer. And I think I've gotten a few pieces of mail and a few tweets and a few other things about how these things don't always all work so well together. So what I want to show you is the bold move we made to reimagine the Windows 8 platform. So the Windows 8 platform for Metro-style applications lets you pick the language that you want to use to build your applications. No matter what tool you want to use, we've got a language for you and a way to write that software. The way that we do this is we start off with the Windows kernel. The Windows kernel is the most robust, reliable, scalable kernel that exists, and we're very proud that we're bringing it forward. And that's the work that we do on fundamentals, whether it's networking and connectivity or process and scheduling, and all the fundamentals of the operating system, some of which will be on display later. What we've done is we've reimagined the Windows APIs, and we call them the Windows Runtime, or WinRT. WinRT provides over 1,800 different objects for you to use to build your applications. First, there's an application model. That application model supports low power. It supports the full screen and immersive applications, and it supports this modern way of building software. There are communication and data objects, graphics and media, devices and printing. And all of these together are natively built into Windows. This is not a layer on top of Windows. This is Windows. It's all native code built to reflect in different languages. So you have the WinRT APIs and objects, and then we reflect those in C and C++, in C# and VB, and you could do your view in XAML if that's what you want to do. You could also see those APIs reflected in JavaScript, and then you could use HTML and CSS to define your view. All of these work together in a unified tool set. You pick the language that you want to use, and you can build your own Metro-style applications with Windows 8. And we've done a huge amount of work to reimagine the whole way that we think of tools, languages, and the platform so that they're all coming together in a unified story for you. At the same time, we're bringing forward all of the skills that you've established and all of that code that you've figured out. We are going to show you how you can move all of that forward and be part of the Metro-style APIs. So the best way to do that, I think, is to just build an app. So let's bring up Antoine LeBlanc. He's the Senior Vice President who runs our Windows App Store. And so we're going to start by building the app, and then we're going to get it up to the store. And so let's bring Antoine out and welcome him to build some apps.
All right. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to show all of you how amazingly easy it is with the new platform and the new tools to actually build these great Metro-style apps. So I'm going to jump right in here. And what I'm going to do is start Visual Studio 11 Express. So this is a new version of Visual Studio that's designed to make it super easy to build different kinds of apps. I'm going to do is I'm going to hit New Project here. And right here, you're going to notice something that Stephen just talked about, which is the availability of all these different languages. So the platform's essentially agnostic to the language that you decide to use. So you can pick the language and the technologies that you're most familiar with, or you think are more applicable to the kind of app you're building, and just use that.
I just want to dwell on this for a second. So there you have these templates that are standard, and then you can just scroll through and pick the language you want to start with, and you're going to get the same templates in each one.
That's exactly right.
The Windows RT just supports all the language out of the gate.
Exactly. So in particular, you know, this sort of bold bet that we've made to bring these web technologies like HTML and JavaScript to that platform really are going to enable millions of web developers that exist today to participate in this amazing new opportunity to build these apps for Windows. Stephen did point out these templates a little bit. You see here that we actually have some pre-built templates in the tool that give you a great way to get started. These are fully functioning Metro-style apps that give you a great starting point. But what we're going to do here is we're going to build a sort of a web app or a JavaScript version starting from a blank application. I'm going to show you how incredibly easy it is to do this. So we're going to call my app PhotoDoodle, and I'm going to just give it a name, hit OK. And what the tool is going to do here is it's going to create basically a small template app. And I'm going to describe what you're seeing really quickly. If you're a web developer, this is going to look incredibly familiar to you and super simple. I have a default.html file for my markup, for my semantic markup. If you look at what's in there right now, it's all the normal stuff that you have at the top of an HTML file. I have a default.css file that's basically there for my styling rules. And then I have a default.js file for the script behind the HTML file. So we're going to start building something here. I'm going to jump right in here into the body of the HTML, and I'm going to insert just 3 lines of HTML stuff.
So we're going to use a couple snippets for this big demo just because, well, we don't want to...
You don't want to watch me type. That's right. So there's basically just 3 HTML elements in here. There's a heading tag that has just, it's going to stick the title of my app at the top. Then I have this canvas element, which if you're an HTML5 developer, you know what this is. This is one of the cool new things in HTML5. It basically gives you a 2D drawing surface that you can use. And then just a button that we're going to stick at the bottom of the HTML page. I'm going to go into the CSS file and just put a couple of styling rules in here. All I'm doing is setting the background color for the canvas so that we can actually see it on the screen, and also setting the typeface size for the heading. I'm going to write a tiny bit of code here. Now this, you'll see here that in the template it gives me some very clear guidance on where I should stick my code. So I'm just going to call a initialization function here, and what I'm going to do is just insert it here. And I'll show you really quickly. All I'm doing here is basically capturing the mouse events on the canvas and hooking them, and then drawing lines between all the mouse move points. And that's going to let me just sort of scribble on my canvas. So 23 lines of code or something.
And this code is straight HTML5. It would run in a browser if you
That's exactly right. I'm going to run this right now, and it's going to run, it's going to run locally here in Windows 8, but I could take those things, hoist them on a web server, point my browser to them, and they would just run like that. So I just hit build and run here. And what it's doing, by the way, this is interesting, it's JavaScript, so it's not compiling it, it's not linking it or doing anything like that. All it's doing is it's packaging all that stuff up, installing it on the system, and running it.
So we have a new format, an app package that you'll learn a lot about over this week.
That's exactly right. So here's my little app. It's not particularly beautiful, but you can see I can touch on it, and the scribbling works, and I can use, one thing that's interesting is I can use the mouse. I even have a stylus here, and I can use that. And you'll notice I didn't have to write any special code. Actually, the input stack in the platform does a lot of clever work to make all those things look the same and work the same. So let's go back. It's, this is nice, but it's just basically a web app. It's not particularly Metro style. But it's
okay, go.
Yeah, anytime you want to pause. So let's metrify this a little bit here. So what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to just insert a couple lines in my initialization function here. I'm going to insert just some initialization code for the button. So all this is doing is hooking the click event on the button, and I'm going to go write a little function that's going to get called when my click event gets when I get that click event. So I'm going to scroll up and show you what I put. So this is sort of the first bit of real Windows 8 code that you're going to see. And what I'm trying to do here is I want the button to bring up a file picker dialog, so I can go pick a photo and actually just stick it in that canvas. That way I can scribble on it. And if you look at this first line of code here, what you see me doing is actually calling into the Windows Runtime API. And what it's doing is it's creating a file open picker object. This is going to look really familiar to you if you've ever written, called the common file dialogs or anything like this. What it does is it just creates the object. It initializes it by giving it a start location, telling it the kinds of files that I want. So here we're looking for image files, setting the default view to thumbnails, and then it brings the thing up, and then basically I can act with it asynchronously. And when I've picked a file, it's going to just open it and then basically take the bitmap and put it in the canvas.
So this is just a native control that you can call on from the Windows runtime, and we're calling it here from JavaScript, but you can call it from any language.
That's right. So let's do one more little bit of Windows, Windows 8 magic here. I'm going to initialize something called this data transfer object. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm going to enable the client. So Julie showed sharing between applications. So I'm going to show you how easy that is. I'm just initializing this object here, and I'm setting up a function that's going to get called when share gets invoked on this application. So let's write the code for that. Again, same kind. This is 4 lines of code. It's super simple. I'm creating this object. It's registered. I'm creating this object, and then when it's going to get called, I'm going to take the bitmap out of my canvas and then basically pass it on to the system. So I'm going to run this now, and now you're going to see something a little bit better. So I'm going to go click on Pick Photo, and here are my photos on my system.
So you now have the full touch first photo picker.
Exactly.
Wait.
You can see, as Julie showed, I can go into, for example, Socialite is basically a little client for Facebook. So right there, I can go pick photos that I actually have in my Facebook photo library.
I mean, do you see what we just did? Like, with just a couple lines of code with the standard file dialog, you're now actually pulling photos from Facebook because that sample application that logged into Facebook was on the system. You didn't have to know it was there when you wrote your app.
That's right. We didn't write a line of networking code. So no networking, no code. I don't know the Facebook API or anything like that. It's pretty amazing to be able to just do that. So I'm going to pick a photo here. And here's a little photo of my dolphin. And I'm just going to scribble on it a little bit. Maybe put, I don't know, put some sharks in there or something. Give him a mustache. Maybe draw a sun. Okay. And then I'm going to share this out. So I'm going to swipe from the right. Here's my share charm. I'm going to click on it. There's Socialite. So I'm going to basically post it on my Facebook page. And I'm going to go, shark. I don't know, what sound does a scared dolphin make? I'm not sure. So there we go. And then I can just hit share in Facebook. And what it's doing now, now it's transferring that picture over. Actually, it's doing it asynchronously. Look, this was incredibly simple. Again, this was like 4 lines of code that I wrote. So
it's super cool. But it's not particularly metro-y.
Well, it doesn't look very good. The layout's all messed up and all that stuff. So let's go try and fix that. And we're going to fix that with a tool that you guys might have heard of before. I'm going to open this in Expressions Blend. Now, those of you who know Blend are going to go, well, what are you doing? Blend is a tool for editing XAML. It's not a tool for editing HTML. Well, a new version of Expression Blend basically takes all the great stuff that it can do with XAML and is able to do it with HTML and CSS as well. Okay, so here we are in Blend. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, but let's start making this look better. So I'm going to go to this Assets tab, and what you're going to notice here is a long list of pre-built controls that are really there to allow you to enable sort of a lot of these metro behaviors and these metro looks that we have that are part of the design language for the application.
So these are all the Windows runtime metro style controls, and later this afternoon you'll get to explore all of them throughout the course of building a big long app.
That's right, and they work with HTML apps and HTML and JavaScript apps, and the same set of controls work with XAML-based apps. We'll talk about that in a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert an app bar. So this is the little bar that sits at the bottom and swoops up and down. I'm going to make it dismissible and transient, so that's the thing that makes it actually swoop. I'm going to come back here, and what I want to do is I want to take that button that's right down here, and I want to put it inside my bar. And the way I'm going to do that, actually, I'm going to go into the DOM Explorer on the left. This is actually clever little thing. If you think about what it's doing, it has to interpret what the code does to actually generate this DOM. So the DOM gets generated at runtime. And I'm just going to drag it into the app bar.
So the app bar is just a div on the HTML page.
That's right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch back over here, and I'm going to change the display, the position to make it absolute, and that way I can just kind of drag this button to where I want it and make this look the way I want. Okay, so far so good. The button is where we want it. The other thing I'd like to do actually is to center this canvas. So this is, if there are web developers in the room and you've written web apps, this is where things get a little funky and a little hard. When you're trying to lay out an application in a world where browser windows can be dragged and resized, it gets really hard. People do this with all sorts of, you can write tons of JavaScript to react to the events and relay out things. You can use tables. A lot of people use tables, but the tables were really never designed to do layout that way.
And this is really important for Windows 8 Metro style apps because you can rotate, and we support all these different aspect ratios and layouts. So using this HTML5 proposed standard for grid is going to be really cool.
That's right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually lay out this body using this new CSS layout that we're working on called a grid. And I'm going to define my grid. So I've set the body to be grid. I'm going to define it as just a simple 1-by-1 grid. And that's going to allow me, so now I've got it defined. And now I can take my canvas object and I can just say, I can just center it within the grid. So we're center here, and now it's centered within the grid. So maybe it seems like, okay, that's a lot of work maybe I could have just made it an absolute position and dragged it into the middle. But as Steven mentioned, you really have to deal with the different states that the app can be in. In fact, the tool gives me some really cool ways to do that. I don't, as a developer, I might just have a laptop that I'm working on and maybe I can't rotate the screen, or I don't have, these apps need to be able to work on these high DPI, 27-inch screens, things like that.